Recording, yeah. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Verena. How are you?
I'm good. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and when I spoke to you, I wanted to have a conversation about awakening.
Yes.
About, I know there's so much going on in the world today where I think people are getting triggered,
Yeah.
and maybe a lot of people are going through different types of awakenings on a level, and I just wanted to get on and we could have a conversation, maybe share our awakening stories, and also to offer guidance for anyone that is feeling a little disconnected, feeling like they're questioning things in their life, they're questioning things that are going on, and to sort of maybe give affirming that that's great, that's normal, that is part of growth and expansion, is to question things in your life, question what you used to accept as normal or okay, and maybe you don't right now.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think a lot of people are awakening up to we have probably lived collectively in a survival mode, the majority of us, and that's changed over, I guess, as people, as individuals slowly awaken. But I think now that we've been put in, the world's experienced in the last couple of months, people are, starting to question, is there something more for me than this? How do I, why? Well, the first question is like, why is this happening to me? I think that's the first question that people will start to fear, and that'll bring up stuff, and then eventually that starts to shift into the more questions you ask, like, why is it happening for me? And that's when I think
and I
we
think
become
also like being in lockdown, and now the restrictions are starting to ease up. People might have the perception, oh, things are going to go back to normal, but when they don't, there's going to be more questions. Because as things don't return to as they did before, because nothing ever will, everything's always changing, things will never be the same again. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it will be questions coming up. Wow, I don't feel the same way about things anymore. And these are the things that trigger an awakening. And I thought, we could share stories like of our awakening spiritually, and I am talking about spiritual awakenings, which is a part of our journey. And people will go through where they start questioning, and I hear it and I see it with people, that people are awakening a lot faster and in greater numbers than ever before.
Definitely. And I guess it's defining, what does awakening actually mean? Because I think there has been a stigma around a spiritual awakening, and it's very woo-woo. But to me, it's like an awakening is when you sort of become more of a conscious participant in your life, and you start to ask those questions, and you start to realize that there is really just living more with intention and awareness, from a higher perspective of understanding, and maybe ascending out of certain beliefs that you've had, and programs that you've had, and start to maybe think more from a energy, from a different, from not from the mind, maybe connecting more into the heart space, and being able to question things from a love-based perspective rather than a fear-based perspective. So what that means is that this is happening for me. This is an opportunity for me. Like, that's higher awareness versus, and there's an element of, we all have to feel like a victim of our circumstances, and feel lost, or feel disconnected, or feel fragmented, I guess the word is. We have to go through it experiences where we feel not ourself. You know, we come into the world whole and pure and complete, and we come from unconditional love, and we generally feel that when we come into the world.
Yep.
And then slowly our experiences take us away from that sense of wholeness.
Yeah, as experience happen, we take on beliefs from our parents, from our surroundings. We put meaning onto things that make us feel wounded. And then as we get older, we're feeling like we're either reacting to things or just living a life that was paved out through us, maybe through the beliefs of our parents. We're repeating patterns. We're having relationships that we've had before, all these things. And then eventually it shows up and we go, wow, I don't want this anymore. This doesn't feel right. I want more than this. Or maybe it's when, who are you? Yeah, like maybe when you've achieved everything that the outside world says, hey, this is what will make you happy, and you get it and you go, this doesn't make me happy. I don't feel fulfilled. So this is often triggers, I think, traditionally triggers for awakenings are usually like, relationship breakdowns, health issues, different traumas. And I know you're going to explain, like, I love your explanation about what trauma is. Financial issues, like things that will shift you into creating change when you feel like that dark night of the soul. Now, at the moment, because of the world situation, a lot, like, people probably are dealing with relationships issues because they've been stuck at home and maybe having to deal with relationships they didn't want to deal with. Or maybe the financial stress of what is going on in the world economy. Maybe there's been lots of jobs. This creates, new decisions to be made. And health-wise, of course, health is like predominant at the moment. People are fearful. And even if your health is okay, you might have to deal with your fear of death, or fear of others or loved ones dying. These are things that trigger an awakening where you're looking for something more than what I have. This is more, I must, maybe it is connection. Maybe it is like, I understand, like, we're moving into where we want unity consciousness, where we want to feel like we're part of the greater whole, where we're connected to each other, even though we've been separate. To move towards connection is a positive thing, not feeling like the victim, which is no choice and like contractional, but to expand, which is making choices out of love, where you expand and you have more choices, and choices become unlimited when you're in a love space, or all choices show up for you. So it's that understanding that you're not in a place of no choice. It's never a place of no choice. There's always some conscious choice you can make that will, even if it's small, even if it's a tiny choice.
Yeah, but I think the struggle that me personally, that I had experienced many times in my life, and I still do sometimes, is that the ego part of ourselves, the ego which is attached to keeping things as they have always been, to keep us going as survival, keep a normality in our life, but is also attached to the wounded parts of us, the unhealed parts and the shadow parts of us that need to be brought into awareness, right? So the unconscious stuff that is affecting our life that we don't realize that we're carrying. But the ego doesn't want us to question anything. It doesn't care about how it is actually making us feel by continuously keeping us in the same program. And it also doesn't want us to start questioning and believing that we actually have choices, right? So the first thing you have to do is, I guess the first question is to shift that, the power, or disengage the ego, so you can start finding a deeper answer, or a more authentic answer for what you're experiencing, is to is not to say, why is this happening to me, like we said before, but why is this happening for me? Because that opens up the channel to allow a different energy to come through and a different understanding to come through.
Yeah, you're opening yourself up to other things to show up. If it's happening to me, even saying that feels like you're down on your knees.
Limited, yeah.
It's limited.
Limited to keeping you in the story that your mind has always told you. The same program, keeping that program running. And we run on programs. But the choice that we have is to change the program. But first we have to understand the beliefs that created those programs. And the only way to understand that is to go inwards. And so, yes, the universe is giving us an opportunity to do that, to start questioning, go deeper and start asking questions about, could this opportunity that I have, could this really be happening for me? Could this be, and why would this be happening for me? Why have I chosen to come to the planet at this time to experience this? And journey back. The awakening process, I feel like, is really a journey back to your authentic self, underneath, stripping those layers back of conditioning back.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's coming back to that your true self, your divine self, your self that, you're comfortable with, that hasn't got all the layers that have been put on in this lifetime and through family conditioning. And it's time to sort of open that up, and there is guidance available if you're feeling that way. Like if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you have no choice, there is guidance for people that have. I'll share, like, with my awakening, I think it happened, and I do see it happen a lot with women in their late 30s. And I know it happened with you earlier, and everyone's different, but I do see a lot of women, and there is the 40 stigma, which I think is such a beautiful number, because women come into their own and they start they start looking at their lives. Maybe their children are going to school, maybe, they start looking at their relationships, and they feel a disconnect often. But that's when it sort of starts. I know for me, mine started probably in my late 30s when I was questioning the marriage I was in. I was unhappy with how my life was going. And then through my awakening was triggered through financial and relationship stress, that everything fell apart. In my late 30s, everything fell apart. And I remember a moment, even though looking back, it happened over probably a 5-year period. But now looking back, I can actually pick a moment where I was down on my knees and I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to change it. And then within the 5 years, looking back, I can see where I changed careers. I became a kinesiologist. I left my marriage. I met my current husband. Like, everything changed in that 5-year period because of a decision that I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm not going to do this, and questioning everything.
Questioning everything.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you shifted from, like, why is this happening? But instead of you trying to figure it out, it was almost like that complete vulnerability and surrender to, I don't have the answers. I'm not happy where I am. I know that there's got to be more. Like, it's almost like that spark in the soul that is, that's your calling. You're calling to come back home. You're calling to come back home yourself. That's what I really feel like an awakening process is.
And I think a lot of people have that spark probably their whole lives. If you look back, you've probably always been looking for something. You just didn't know what it was, and you might have just been distracted by travel or sparkly things or relationships. So distracted by things on the outside, but then one day, you, as you said, the only way to move out of that is go within. Is to find out what do I want? What actually makes my heart sing? What am I missing from within? What did I create? Why have I created these situations to move me into a new place?
Yeah, that's right. And, we should mention that at the time, though, you're an emotional mess. You feel so disempowered and you feel so distraught with emotion that it is difficult at that time. It is traumatic, and it will trigger a lot of things that are stored in the memories as well, a lot of old emotions and things like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Because whatever's showing up then, it's not the first time. Those emotions have been felt before. It's just, they're probably just accelerated because this is the time you need to change. This is the time. So these emotions are still just coming from the past, but it's like there will be a time where it's like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And this is a time when if you feel like you don't have the know-how or support, look for it. It's out there. Look for people that have been in that situation and have moved out of it, because you can find that. You can look for mentors or guidance. Like, I feel like that's part of my purpose. One, to go through that when I did, 7 years ago, but to be here now to help women go through whatever is showing up for them at this time, to be a guide, to be a light, to be actually able to help people move, transition and awaken so they can move forward into the new world we're going into.
Yes, 100%. And, it will come through. That feeling will also come through in different ways for each of us. Each of our experiences will be different. For me, looking back, there was a process of awakening, little things that were happening, that the universe was trying to get my attention, and my spirit, my own soul, was trying to get my attention. And it was random things that would happen, synchronicities and signs from the universe. I guess, like, the time that I can sort of pinpoint my my awakening, like looking back, the significant moment in my life that I started then becoming that conscious participant. I started like going, okay.
I like
And
that. Being a conscious participant. That is perfect. That is
but I
what we
didn't
all want
realize
to
that
be.
I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but I was searching. It was that moment where I started searching for more. And it was a very traumatic thing for me, actually, that led to that. And so the couple of years prior to that, I had lost my father. Then I lost, the year later, I lost my father too. I was pregnant with my second child in a very stressful marriage. Not even going to go into all that experience. There was a lot of trauma that I experienced over a long period of time. From, a young age, a lot of things have happened to me in my life, a lot of death in my family. It was like almost the universe was pushing me to look towards the unseen and life after death, and that there is more than what we sense with our five senses, our physical senses. So I guess looking back, at that time, it was very dark time for me. My brother suicided. I had to go and I had, the situation, it was quite traumatic. It was like almost like it triggered a fear of death in me. And I feel like I was being triggered. Looking back, I can say it was probably post-traumatic stress that led to this.
Oh, for sure.
Because I also almost drowned when I was 4 years old, and my father, so 5 years old, my dad saved me. So I think looking back, there was that being triggered as well. But the incident, what happened was I had a experience where I thought I died and saw myself leaving my body. My partner at the time says, like, I was just lying on the bed and there was no one there. The lights were on, nobody was home, right?
You probably did leave your body. You probably were.
Did leave my body. And I was going to the light, and it was this sense of, oh my gosh, I'm leaving so much behind, my children, like my earthly world, like my life. And then as I sort of went towards the light, I was like, oh my God, they're waiting for me. I was excitement, and I was like this sense of overwhelming peace. And and like I was going home really. And but then I thought, it's not time to go. It's not my time to go, you know.
So did
Even
your
though,
psychic gifts come after that, or you always had them?
yeah, I think that was a big trigger, a big crack open.
Wow.
I'd always sort of had gifts as a child, saw, would talk to spirit, would sit in my room and just see things and talk to spirit, often waking up as well. And I'm laughing and talking to things that are not there. So they're there, just in another realm. Premonitions in my dreams, things like that. But it was blocked. It was blocked. It was also blocked because I was criticized for being sensitive. I was told I was actually labeled as Suki Connie, so like by my family. So it was almost like, oh, I'm not allowed to be sensitive, so I have to shut that off, or there's shame associated with this. So I feel like that blocked me off, but that was meant to happen. And I feel like then going through the experiences of the death with my family later on in life, that and my own you want to call it near-death experience or post-traumatic stress experience, whatever that was, that and to finish that story, basically my partner at that time slapped me around and I came back into my body, and I was like, oh wow, you saved my life. And he's like, I don't know where you went, Connie, but I'm like, well, I'm here. And it was like this moment of like, I'm here to do something, which I'd always known, but it was like time to start looking for that, Connie. It's time to start being that active participant in your life and stop running from yourself, because I was in survival mode up until then. I was just responding to what life had given me versus actually being aware. Like it was almost, and I was quite naive growing up as well. So it was like I was always running on, just responding to my outside world rather
And I
than
think that's,
aware of what's going on, you know.
We're always responding, because that's what we're taught, to respond to the outside world. And I think we are changing, and I think we are trying to instill in our children to respond from within, to go within. But that is part of the human journey, is to realize what's going on. And then we end up having, we're born perfect, and then we forget who we are. We forget who we are, and then we have this life experience, and then at a time, which is interesting, I think, for different people. I think sometimes it's late 30s to 40s, and sometimes it's earlier, maybe 27, when it's the Saturn returns. So people find a place where they start asking, who am I? Because there is a memory, you just don't know what it is, and you're trying to find that. And what it is that I can be a conscious creator. I can be a conscious participant in my life, because I think that was a real, that is always ends up to be the decision made. The decision going forward when someone has an awakening, it is like, wow, I can actually be a conscious creator. I can actually, you know.
You don't realize it at the time, though. You don't realize, you're not realizing that that's what's going on, though.
No, you don't. But at the end, I think when I look back, it was like, what do I want to be that I could, looking back, and it was only not long after I had made a decision and made some big changes in my life, that I was like, I could see, how did I get to the point I am now? Often by giving my power away. Often by giving my power to other people, other things, you know. So I was looking for answers, even who I should be. I was looking at the collective to see, well, what's accepted by others? I should be that. I need to be accepted by my family, so I should be this.
So defining yourself from the response, defining yourself by what's going on the outside.
Yes.
Rather than actually being connected to the inside and asking yourself the questions that you need to. We do have we have a higher self, we have a soul, we have a spirit that wants to communicate with us, that is has a lot more knowledge than what our
Yeah, that's
mind does.
our genius. And what I call it with the work I'm doing now, I call it the super conscious, which is our higher self, which is our source energy, our divine self, the part of you that is eternal, the part of you that actually knows everything. And it is the observer. It's the observer of your life. So when we do want to change, we can go up there and create change from that point of view, that higher self, and we can tap into that infinite knowledge, that guidance that we don't often tap into because our subconscious, like you said, our programming is sometimes a lot louder than our divine self, who is just the observer that's up here observing the experience we're having, not attached to it, just observing it. It's our conscious and subconscious that are attached to things, either attached to who we want to be or attached to how we should be, So I think there is just so much to, when people are feeling that way, it's like to know, there is guidance. One, I can look for it, but it's also within me. It's everything I need to know is within me. Everything I need to find out is there. I just maybe need to be quiet and listen. And maybe that's why it could be showing up for some people at this point. Maybe there is, when all the distraction is taken away and we're quiet. Have you heard a sort of a disconnect to say, I'm not happy. This isn't working for me.
Yeah.
But important not to, even though things do happen that are not great, and you can be the victim of circumstance. And I'm not saying that, when terrible things happen, that people can be a victim of circumstance, but don't be there's a difference by choosing to be a victim of life. That circumstance, I was a victim of that, but I can empower myself to make different choices moving forward. From this moment on, that thing happened to me, but from this moment out, I can make different choices.
It doesn't have to define me. I think what it is that our mind, which we make most of our choices from, I think once you have the sort of awakening and you become more conscious, is you're making choices from a more abundant and infinite source of energy, which is the soul and the spirit, versus the mind, where the mind, we're making more of we have a more limited awareness. It's limited by our experiences. It's limited by our attachments to the past. It's limited by what we can see.
Our attachments to material things.
Yeah, it's limited to our experiences. This is the soul, which is infinite and has lived many lifetimes, is connected to the universal energy and source energy, and unconditional love. So the mind will not have all the answers. So, I think that's the one thing that happened with my awakening, is that I had been avoiding so much. I'd been avoiding my emotions, been avoiding my grief. I'd been avoiding dealing with things, and I had started to deal with things, and I think that's where the shift started, is that I started taking little steps to feel more empowered in my life. But then that one incident, what happened after that was I got major anxiety because it had stirred up so much within me, that I started to question everything, and I became totally ungrounded. And it came through my physical body after that. And I was just like, what do I need to do? And instead of just going into the mind and my mind telling me what I've always done, I tried something different. First, I was universally guided, thank God, by my spirit guides to go and try meditation. And what does meditation do? Meditation takes you out of your thoughts, the limitations of your mind, the limitations that of your experiences, and it puts you in a different energy, and it puts you into the energy of your own spirit, and connecting you to more answers, a more abundant energy. And so that was the path for me. I started going to meditation classes. I actually, looking back, I'd had some experience with it. I had a teacher in year 7 that would meditate with us in our classroom before class. You know, there were little things I think that had happened over the years which probably were imprinting on me.
And I have heard so many people, when they go through that, meditation has been the key. That seems to be the common thread in so much. That has been the key to get people on track to start. And I think meditation was, for me, it did come in a little bit later. But as you were talking about, synchronicity started happening for me. Books started to land in my direction.
Yeah,
I started
exactly.
studying kinesiology, which was another thing. I turned up somewhere, someone gave me a brochure, and I just felt driven. You know, follow your guidance. You'll be guided somewhere that you're meant to, and follow it. And so I started, and then people started to talk to me about different spiritual teachers, and I just became obsessed. I just wanted to inhale this information because it felt so good to learn it. It felt so healing. I felt like I was just drinking it up. And
yeah, because it resonates. It resonates on some level. We can't explain why it does. But it's because it's actually an awakening to experiences that our soul has already experienced before, that we've already done in other lifetimes, right? And that's going deeper into the spiritual awakening and journey. But you will know what feels right for you, and the universe is definitely there to support you. It's just waiting for you to take that step and ask the question of, what is there for me?
And then ask a question like, if you feel stuck, maybe two things. One, I think, is, like you said, a real surrender of, I don't know what else to do. Can God, source, universe, someone help me, guide me?
Yeah.
Ask for a sign, and something, I tell you, something will show up.
It will show up.
It will show up. It'll be a phone call. It'll be a book. It'll be, you'll walk past a shop and see something. Maybe it'll be open. Hopefully the shop will be open now. But or you'll go on YouTube. What's that?
Do you remember the first time that you received like a synchronicity and you were like, that's a little bit strange, a sign or something like that?
I think I remember a few. There was one that was really specific. There's been lots actually. But the one I loved, I started kinesiology, which was a sign in itself, because I remember going to the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival. I just moved to Melbourne. I had no friends. I had no family. I had a small child, very unhappy marriage. And so I went there looking, I'm going to do reflexology. I'm going to go see a psychic, whatever. And then someone handed me this kinesiology, and I had it before. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was just drawn to it. But one of the things, when I did start kinesiology, when I started studying, I started to hear about all these teachers. My teachers were talking, about Louise Hay. So I started listening to Louise Hay. And that was my introduction. You Can Heal Your Life. And I was listening to all these YouTube videos, and I watched the You Can Heal Your Life movie. And then one day, I think I remember her saying, someone is just going to give you a book. And I remember going to a class, and I sat next to this lady, and she said, we were talking about Louise Hay, and she gave me the book. She just gave it to me. And because I had thought, I need to get that. I need to get that book, or I need to read more. And she said, here, I bought one for everyone in the class, and I've got one extra for you. Well, she didn't know it was for me. She just had an extra book. And she said, take it. And I remember thinking, that's a sign. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a synchronicity in itself, because you mentioned that book. That book was the first spiritual book that I read myself. Yeah. And it came to me probably a few years before that. Probably a year before that incident, or a year and a half before my traumatic near-death experience. And I was going through a court case with my ex-husband, and I was literally, that book had come to me. I couldn't even tell you how it had come to me, but it was in my hands, and I was literally reading it in court. affirming to the universe, like, just to keep me safe. All is well in my world. All, like, this is happening for me. This is in my, favor. And it shifted, like, things did work out in my favor that day, and it was like ending and beginning for me. This, I guess maybe that was the start of my awakening.
I think that book specifically is a great introduction. I don't think it's a be all and end all, but I think it is a wonderful introduction, and that's what it was meant for. That's what she was all about. That Louise Hay, her energy was like to open a doorway to so much. That's why, I think she created Hay House, and I think there will be, and sometimes that might not be the way, but it'll be something. Maybe it'll be some channeled work that you've listened to that really resonates with you.
Maybe it'll be this video,
Maybe it'll be this video. You don't know. Like, I think I would have loved.
Connect with us, and talk to us about what you're experiencing, and we can help open that doorway for you. I would remember one specific thing that happened to me, which I thought, this is really strange, and this is me. Like, maybe the universe is on my side. Maybe I can actually communicate with the universe. And this was probably at that time, I don't know if that happened before or after, but around the same time, I think I had gone, after I went into meditation, did all those things, I was guided to go do Reiki, but to have Reiki done on myself. And that, I thought someone put a curse on me. I ended up in my Reiki teacher's shop. She looked at me and she's like, I'm like, I need to see you. She's like, yes, you do. So I went in, I had a Reiki session. But before that, or around that time, I was working on my business, had a gift shop in Beaconsfield in the Melbourne southeast.
Yeah.
This particular day, the school rang. My oldest son was like in prep, and I'd forgotten his swimming gear for school. And it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was an emotional wreck because I'd been holding so much emotion. I hadn't dealt with anything at this time. And anyway, sorted that out, went to the school, sorted out his stuff, came back to the shop, standing outside. And I remember saying to a lady that, one of the workers in one of the other shops, I'm like, I really need to get into meditation. Now, I think this must have been after I had started meditation, because I had a break maybe of 6 months or so. And I'm like, I really need to get back into it. And didn't think anything of it, had a bit of a cry, went back into my shop. And if you know Beaconsfield, it's a tiny little town.
I think I've driven, is it?
You drive through it, go down like to, past Packen and go down to Gippsland sort of thing. Anyway, there's not much there. There's a lot there actually for a little town like that, but there's not really that much there. So this particular time, like half an hour before I'd said I need to get back into meditation, a Buddhist monk in full robes walked into my shop. You can't write this stuff, right? Walks into my shop and he hands me a pamphlet for meditation. And then that day I was like, okay, something is listening to me. And if it's listening to me, it's listening to all the stuff I'm complaining about. It's listening to all the stuff that, I have a voice. There is something bigger there. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even be born. And I remember being a teenager and always like lying on the grass and asking, well, what's God? Asking those deeper questions at that time. And then I think at some point just stepping into like the program of being who I thought everyone else needed me to be, or who I needed to be to fit into society. And that is not our truth. Our truth is not doing what everyone else is doing. Our purpose here is just to find our authentic self and to express love in the way that we can, or that, our own unique way. And so the awakening process is coming back to that.
To honor yourself. I think when we try and live our lives for others, or taking on things that we believe will make other people happy, or looking outside of ourselves for fulfillment, that it does Actually, I'm trying to think what I'm going to say now. And now I can't remember. It's gone. But like
Well, it
we
creates
do.
suffering. The more you try and fix,
It does. Like if you're the seeker, you're seeking because you know there's something. So you're seeking. When I think back to as a child, I was a seeker. I lived in a small town and I wanted out. When I got out of there, I wanted to go overseas. So I was always seeking because I felt like there was something bigger than me. And I remember reading The Alchemist when I was like 22. Or no, actually I was older. I was probably 25. And I've read it many times since then, but I was like packed my bags and bought a one-way ticket and moved to London. Because I thought, well, yes, that was helpful but really the journey was, it was about coming back to me. I'm glad I did all of that.
You go
inwards.
Yeah,
but I probably didn't do it. And, I left that trip I did at 25, but I probably didn't find myself till 39, maybe 40. No, 40. It was 40. So it was a long journey.
Yeah, and I think you will look back and you'll go, oh yeah, it all makes sense how I did that. And, but once you really start to live consciously through that connection with your own higher self every day, living with intention and going inwards first, then responding to what the outside is, maintaining that connection, there's a lot less suffering. There's a lot more understanding. There's a lot more acceptance. There's a lot more peace in your life. But know that if you're not there, that's okay too. You're meant to just be here to experience the human condition. But what will make it easier is having a deeper experience through.
And I think don't run away from suffering. Suffering will happen, and suffering gives you the understanding of what true joy is. And suffering, that's part of the human experience. We don't want to prolong it. We don't want to keep suffering, but there will be things in our life that don't feel good, and trying to protect ourselves from that is not living. So sometimes we will go through a period of suffering, and that is part of the journey outwards to find out what
speak it, girl. Clear that voice. What is it you want to say? Speak your truth.
It is the part we do, the duality. There will be dark times you need to know the dark to have the light. But when you're in the dark, know the light is there. You just have to find the switch. And sometimes the switch is about making the decision to be what was the word you used? Not the conscious creator, to be a conscious participant in your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we get confused with like, oh, conscious creator, I'm going to create all the stuff I want in my life. That's not necessarily going to make you happy. I think that's the disconnect we've had in the last 15 years after The Secret, which I loved. It did open a door for me, but I do understand we can create things on the outside, but it doesn't mean it's going to be fulfilling on the inside. It's to listen to that voice within. What fills me up? If something drains you of energy, that is not the path. If something fills you up and gives you energy, then do that. Simple as that.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, what the words that I'm hearing is that when you go inwards, it's an invitation to love yourself more. It's an invitation to find your way back to wholeness, which is unconditional love for yourself. And so not to be afraid of that, because the journey to unconditional love, that the outcome of that is loving yourself. Why wouldn't you allow yourself to have that experience? And yes, that means going through the layers and the things within yourself that's keeping you away from loving and accepting yourself. It's keeping you away from being authentic to who you are. But you are worth that journey.
That's perfect. So the journey is always moving out of fear into love. Always moving out of fear into love. Being fearful is maybe being fearful of making different choices, maybe your life changing. Don't be fearful. Move into a loving space, and that could be going within. I think that's beautiful. Now, how I wanted you to talk, as we sort of wrap up today, that I saw that you put on board about your coaching, which I think will be a great vehicle if anyone is having these questions. So this is what I wanted to share with whoever listens to this. I'll put in the description a link to Connie's website and a link to mine, because we're both guides when it comes to working with women through transformation. So tell me about the coaching, the spiritual coaching.
Soul empowerment coaching is really part of that, I guess, that journey of awakening to your authentic self. It's, you know, people are quite conscious of their limitations a lot of the time, or they're conscious, you know, about the things that are blocking them and they want to do, you know. Coaching is if you're ready to do something about that, if you're ready to journey into clearing that away, clearing what's not serving you. A lot of my clients that have come to me, it's only something, I mean, I've been working with people for a long time, but this is intentionally working to coach you to get to a point where you feel fully aligned with yourself, with your authentic self. So removing all the limitations, the layers, working together. And for each person, it's going to be different because we all have different experiences. But it's really clearing away on all levels the things that are perhaps creating resistance in you connecting with your authentic self and stepping into that power. So we work on that. We work together with single sessions, or you can work with me for 6 weeks. And the 6-week program is really like about really working on all levels, conscious and unconscious, and the conditioning and the programs, and reprogramming yourself to become a co-creator with the universe, and to use the universe and the energy within yourself and the energy around you to feel more empowered in your life to actually have what you want. So it's really interesting. But I'm working with a few specific clients at the moment, and they're all at a point in their life where they're just like at that point of like, I'm not happy. You know, it served me till now, living the way that I have. It served me to now, but I know that there's more.
And there is more, And when you're drawn to do the work, that's perfect. And I do a similar thing. With my, like very, very similar to you, we just use different tools. I use kinesiology, and I use another process, which is the magnetic mind coaching process, which is and theta healing, which is tapping into your source energy, tapping into your superconscious, and removing the resistance from a level, from that superconscious level. Because I worked a lot with beliefs where we try and shift them from subconscious, but that takes longer and it's a little harder. But it's removing the beliefs and sabotage and structures and programs that have prevented you from living that life that you want, from living that life that that's your true calling. And once we remove the resistance and find a true choice, something that you want, something that you're not moving away from, something that you're really aligned to, that you're anchored to, that when we find that choice, the resistance that shows up, and we can clear that and move that away to help you move through this transformation, help you move through this awakening. So I thought this was a good opportunity to share that, because I think a lot of people might be going through asking these questions, and to show there is a light. Even if you feel like you're in darkness, there is a light, and there is pathways to take people to help you. And I'm so blessed with all the mentors and teachers I had that helped me along the way, that, you know, can't wait to do that for other people, which is my real joy.
That's right. And that's in alignment with your purpose. And I think with our work, I think, you know, there'll be a lot of people that have even done a lot of work on themselves. They're aware of like what they've been through, what they went through in their childhood, the things that affect them, their fears, like those patterns will be recreated over and over in their life, and they're so aware of them. But the reason why they can't shift out of that and into their light, into their purpose, is because they don't know what to anchor to, because it's unknown for them. You know, we weren't taught, we were taught to be human, we were taught to be conditioned, we were taught to live the program.
And the question comes up, why does this resistance keep coming up? Why does, you know, when things keep repeating themselves, know that there's maybe something you're missing, and maybe you do need maybe a help or guidance to move through that is the path.
And to anchor into what's actually authentic for you.
Anchor into your true choice, your true, which is authentic to you. Because when you anchor into something that's maybe not your choice, maybe you believe that's, you know, when you're sort of pursuing a goal that is someone else's goal for you and not your true goal, you can't anchor into that, and it won't feel right. You will be drained of energy. You will come out of it going, oh. But that's, to find that true, authentic choice, that alignment to you, that is the key. That to be that conscious participant. I love that. I'm going to use
that word came up today. Those words came up today. But I think also what people are really searching for at the moment, I've noticed, and I get so many questions about this, is what is my purpose? What is my purpose? Like, why? And I think that's what collectively there's been this energy that's come in, and who we are or who we think we are has been stripped away from us. And that might be the role of, you know, whatever your job was, whatever, like the normality of your life and the role that you played has been stripped away for a lot of people. Some people have been able to keep doing what they were doing, but the majority of people, it's been
and I think people are questioning, and even the safety. I think a lot of people are questioning, you know, the people that make the laws, the decisions. I think people are questioning that too, like on not only on a national scale but a global scale. They're looking at where I felt safe, I might not feel safe anymore. I don't know whether I trust these people that are making decisions, or I don't feel safe. So it's that. So then that brings up, what do I need to change within me? How do I come out of that?
The soul doesn't want to be restricted at all. So the soul is expanded. It doesn't want to have defined structure and boundaries. And that's, I think, what a lot of these structures in our society have created. They've taken us away from the soul in many ways by restricting us and putting us more into maybe a logical mind or a more masculine way of doing things. But I think now a lot of that's been stripped away for a lot of people. And so what's left is like, what am I doing? Who am I? What's my purpose? Who am I without what I was attached to? Because I was attached to that, it was comfortable. Who am I now? And that is, even though that's uncomfortable, that is, and that's why I say the hardest things that I've been through have been the best things for me, because as lost as I was, the truth came out for me. The truth.
Absolutely. Like, I don't regret anything. Like, I'm so happy for where I am now and the lessons, because I don't want to look back at that woman 10 years ago and be living that life, because life is about change. We need to evolve. We need to move on. We need to find our purpose. That's what we're here for. I think finding a purpose and a place that we can serve and feel fulfilled, and it can be in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be career, or could be in relationships, could be with your children, could be a career, could
purpose,
be anything.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah, purpose for me, this is what I realize, is purpose is not what you do. Purpose is who you are. Purpose is your state of being. It's like who you have been created to express love in the way that you can. It's your imprint on the world. That is your purpose. It has nothing to do with what you do, or what label you have, or what role you play. It's your essence of how you make people feel. And
Yes.
you can do that in any aspect of your life, to feel like you're living on purpose and fulfilled. It could just mean just, showing up in your household and loving the people in your home so that they feel that energy. That then you get that fulfillment, you get that purpose.
Yeah,
it doesn't
absolutely
necessarily mean to go and change the world. Just start where you are with who you are, and
start where you are. That's perfect.
Start where you are with who you are, and
start where you are with who you are. Oh, like that, Connie. Like that.
But if there's, I guess there's one thing that you should be asking yourself is, how can I be the best version of myself today? How can I bring that forward?
Yeah.
And things will just unfold the way that they need to.
Just today. Start with today, and the rest will follow, because really that is the key, to start in the present moment. And that's what all the great teachers talk about. That's where we need to start, right in this moment. Not live in the past, not be worried about the future, just be in the moment and do the best, be the best you can, make the best choice you can in this moment.
Yeah.
And that will lead you to the next moment, and the next thing will show up. Because if we're too far ahead, we'll miss it, because those little steps are where we grow.
Yeah. And if we're too far ahead, we forget that we're wanting to put ourselves in a position other than where we are, because where we are is not enough.
Yes.
So it's a matter of,
and then that's a conflict, and then that doesn't work either.
Yeah. So you can have your dreams and your visions and your desires, and use your imagination for a life that is authentic to you. But remember to be present and show up for yourself every day. And if you don't know how to do that, just use the energy of the universe. Just like I was awoken that time when the Buddhist monk walked into my shop, because the universe heard me, heard my message. That's how powerful we are. We don't realize that the universe is constantly responding to what we're saying, whether doesn't know what our intention is.
And when we become more awake, we see it. We see, and those messages, those signs are always there. And it's so beautiful when those things show up for you. I love it. I love when the thing, you need to write them down, because there's so many, and then you forget. And just, it is beautiful, because you feel connected, and you feel that, as Gabrielle Bernstein, her book, she talks about the universe has your back. When you ask for help, something will show up.
Yeah.
And when you ask for help, and there is a power greater than yourself, it will show up in some way, whatever, in the best and highest way that you need. And it might be just finding peace. It might be just, it might be a book, it might be a friend, it might be a phone call, but something will show you to know that you're not alone, that there is something bigger, greater than yourself. And I think we might leave it there, because we could talk all day. Talk all day.
We'll come back next week and
yeah, we'll find a new topic. But yeah, thank you, Connie. I love talking to you, and I love sharing. I thought I really wanted to have that conversation, and I wanted to put it out there. And who better to have the conversation with?
Yes, I know. I love it. And I love how our story, even though it's taken like different turns and different experiences, along the way we've had things that have happened that we've both shared, like as in like information that came to us. Like I've read You Can Heal Your Life. I've read The Alchemist. We've had so many things that we were exposed to, and it was like that energy had to come into our life. And maybe that's what we needed too, so that we could connect at this point in our life as well. So it's like knowing that everything has its purpose for you. Everything has its purpose, and because you have a purpose. So it's like you are the universe, right?
Everyone has a purpose, and we have our divine intelligence inside of us that is our guide. And once we get quiet, we can listen to it. And once we listen to it, we know It is it's that loving voice that knows all, that sometimes it's quiet and we need to be quiet to hear it.
Yeah.
We need to close down the shouty ego and listen to that loving voice, that divine self, our soul.
Yep.
So
Beautiful.
Thank you, Connie.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.